Hey everyone, I just wanted to jump on and talk about how we can actually use a task management system to effectively delegate. So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Leslie Leondis with Next Path Coaching, and I am joined with my business partner, Lynn Brannon, that has also been instrumental in getting our business where we actually wanted to go, because I know right now there's so many business owners that are struggling with all the tasks that they have to do, and they're trying to keep everything in their head. So, Lynn, what is one of the things that you see most when you're coaching our business owners, that what they're trying to do with all their tasks?
They're trying to hoard them. They have a fear of delegation because they're afraid something's going to get lost in the cracks or forgotten about, and they're not going to know about it.
Right. So we have been through like what, six task management
Yeah.
systems, and we've tried Excel, notebooks, post-it notes. I wouldn't even count in those. Um, and I remember a long time ago, we had like this when we were both working for mom. We had that Excel sheet, but then we would forget to fill in the Excel sheet, and we'd forget to like when stuff came in, and so we had no idea stuff was in there because we had this huge basket of paperwork that nobody even touched. And we even put some of it out in the garage because it smelled so bad.
Yes.
So if you compare now to then, what are your thoughts? Because I know there's tax preparers out there right now that are fixing to deal with this same concept, and bookkeepers too, when they start getting like massive amounts of information in.
The difference between now and then is holy shit, night and day. It is, I could not imagine living in that world now, knowing what I know and knowing how things can be done versus how we did them. It takes some courage and some determination to make that change, but it's so worthwhile in the end. Like I said, I could not imagine us going back to that. Needless to say, trying to have a team deal with that.
Mm-hmm. And I remember too, because right now we're dealing with 1099s and payroll reports where we manually did both of those. And
This gave me chills.
we had a lot of payroll at that time because mom believed in doing payroll for anybody for $25.
Yeah.
But what she didn't realize is how much it actually took to actually do the payroll, because there was no process of how to do it anywhere. And I remember she used to like, we felt beaten at the end of the day because she was like, can't y'all just get this? And it was
Yeah.
because we only did it once a quarter and we couldn't remember of how we did it the year before. And she wanted it a certain way. Well, if you look at it now, we do it a different way.
Yeah.
And all of our coaching clients and all the accountants we talk to, every single one of them do it different,
Yeah.
but then they
Now,
get frustrated with their team. Can you tell us a
yeah.
little bit about that?
Yeah. Just because we all get to the same result doesn't mean we take the same path to get there. There's multiple ways of getting to the end result. And I hear a lot of our clients and I hear others talk about, well, they did this for so and so. Why can't they do it for me this easily? They have to learn your way, your systems. You got to give them grace. And the best way to do that for them to learn, and the quickest way, is through processes, making sure you have your document, your process is documented, so you don't have to worry about it. They can easily follow behind what the way you do it and get the results you want.
Mm-hmm. And I remember we had those really long payroll lists of all the ones that we had to do, and all the 1099 ones. And then we were constantly going back and forth with clients trying to get information, trying to get the W-9s, and then we would get lost in it. And then, people would send there. A lot of the information was siloed too, of when they sent in the information, because we didn't have a clear system on actually capturing all the information. And I know a lot of people think, well, it's January, it's too late now, but it's not. Because if you don't start now, when are you going to start? And I think back to our first task management system that we put in, and I put so many hours in actually building it, but then it didn't work. And the reason it didn't work is because we didn't do our due diligence on actually what it took that we needed it to do, because it was built for accountants, but it didn't connect with anything. And so it was like this piece of tool over here, and then we had all this other tech over here, but it didn't connect anywhere. And then we even got one that did connect, but then it still didn't work, right? Because it connected with QuickBooks Online, but it didn't connect the workflow the way we needed the workflow to connect. And then we went to one that was just like a blank slate in OneNote. Well, I was the only one that had access to it, and we did share it at one point, but it never got updated, and it just really never worked.
Never got updated because fear of it was so easily manipulated without you even knowing you're manipulating or changing it. And that put more fear into somebody touching it. So they just ignored it altogether. And I couldn't blame them.
Yeah.
I was one of those people. Boy, if it's going to get screwed up, you could look at me first because I was going to be the one to screw it up. Uh, just saying.
Because it was so easy to delete over it.
Yeah. Yeah. I did it. That's why I know it'd be me that did it. Yeah. Going back to those, I literally still get emails saying I have jobs in those old ones that we haven't belonged to in, my God, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
So it shows how efficient they are. But you have to stop and ask the questions. Like you said, we were not educated at the time. We had to go through the process of getting educated, and we did that through trial and error. But you have to know the questions to ask, of the software, to make sure you have to have a list of everything you want it to do, to make sure you ask the right questions, to make sure you get what you want that's going to work for you. There's so many task management systems out there. A lot of them are very comparable across the board. We just happen to use ClickUp. That's the one we found we really love, and we can really, works well for us. But there's so many more. I mean, there's Financial Sense, Monday, Carbon, Sana. There's so many. It's just important that you use the one that's going to work best for you.
Mm-hmm. And there was one in particular that we used that did work, but it worked well for the team, but it kept us from actually effectively delegating because it was a pain to put in one-off tasks. The reoccurring task worked really well. So for month-end payroll, those types of tasks, it worked really well, but it didn't work well for when a client asked us for something. So we spent most of our day handling requests from clients that we shouldn't have been handling, and it didn't handle the admin task, which I know a lot of our clients think, hey, I need to hire a higher level person, but really and truly they're drowning in admin task, and a lot of it could be automated. But the point is, you have to look at how easy is it to delegate, because I know both you and I had trouble delegating on the other systems. Plus, we also had this fear of they won't do it and I won't know it.
Well, the team had problems delegating too, because if they came up and they needed to take a day off or they were sick or whatever, it was hard to find what they were supposed to do. It was hard to assign it to somebody else other than themselves. It was clunky. It was not an easy flow as it should be.
Right.
It's also not only the delegation, it has helped us be able to see without having to go to the team. We can easily see if something's been done or not. We can easily see where the team is at any point in time. They can see where we're at any point in time, because as many people know, we spent a lot of time away this year. They were able to keep up with our tasks. As best we tried to clear them up as best as we could before we left, but things come up, things, that might not be on the radar at that time when we're doing that. They were easily able to clear that up for us, take care of it, move it out, and do whatever they needed to do.
Right. And so let's talk about some of the, because we've taken time off before, and it was, for lack of better words, it was a complete shit show. And that was years ago before we had a task manager, because everything lived in both of our heads. So we couldn't plan, we couldn't be proactive, versus now where we have been off almost like half the year. If you push it all together, we've been out a lot this year.
And you look at December by itself, we were gone almost the whole month. We literally just came back to work today. So, but for that whole month, nothing was missed. Everything that was on our plate, were able to take care of because they didn't call me. They didn't get in touch with me. And to my knowledge, they didn't call you or get in touch with you
Mm-hmm.
about anything. They were able to handle it. We were able to step back in today and we literally had what we had to do today. We could easily see what everything had been done, why we were gone. We didn't have to worry. I didn't worry about anything. I knew the clients were getting taken care of. I knew the team was taking care of anything farm related, admin related, whatever. Nothing was left up to hoping and praying. And I didn't lose any sleep. I don't know about you, but
Mm-mm.
I didn't lose any.
Well, and one of the things too that they had that like today, what the main thing I came back to was there was a few tax questions that our clients had asked, and they had also asked. There was one that to return a call with a client, and so they put that in the task management system. So it told me what that I needed to do today, which I was able to easily respond to and move on from it, because where before they were trying to remember, oh, Leslie needs to call this particular client back, where they made the task, they were done with it. And then they also gave me context of what the client was actually calling for, so the
Mhm.
client also didn't have to remember, because a lot of our clients don't remember if it was a week ago when they called, because they shared with them we were on vacation. And so the client was like, I don't remember what I called for. So they had
Yeah.
context on there of what they were
Well,
calling for.
it brought back a memory of before we had this. We used to come when we're still in office. We used to come back and we had glass on our office doors, and it'd be covered with sticky notes of who we all needed to call. But it was just that they called again, no context, and the client don't remember 9 times out of 10. So we're calling, we're just having a casual conversation because we're returning the call, but we have no idea what we're calling for. But yeah, just the visual of all those post-it notes everywhere. It was a nightmare.
Yeah. And so all of that being in a system told me this morning, this is what I need to prioritize today, is because we are do pride ourselves on being proactive and being having a relationship with our clients for accounting and tax, not to mention the coaching. So it was very easy to go through and say, okay, this is my priority today, is I just need to return this phone call and these messages. And I know you kind of did the same thing, where we were set up for success today.
Mhm.
And then today we had a team member out sick, and so the team was able to quickly go to her board and see what she had on her plate today and move things over. So not only could we delegate, the team could also help each other. And I know on the bookkeeping side, you have that going on a lot on that side when
Oh
they're
yeah.
over capacity. So
Oh
how
yeah.
easy is that with the system?
It makes things so much easier. They can easily go in there, go to the client, and they can search by that client and just remove everything over. They can easily tell who client belongs to who, when the stuff is due, if it's something that needs to be taken care of right now, or if it can be pushed out, whichever. And they can look at each other's boards and see who has the capacity to take, the person's work that's out without overcapacitating themselves. They can split it among
And
without worrying about it.
so I want to take you back to 1099s for just a minute, because I know how much you love 1099s. But used to 1099s were a pain in our rear end because we were constantly waiting on W-9s. And I know there's so many accountants that feel this
Mhm.
too. What is different now than what it was about 5 years ago?
5 years ago, oh my God, I hated January. Uh, Mainly because of the 1099s. They just pissed me off because it was something that could be done if it was kept up with, could be done so easily. So compared to then to now, we were literally struggling to get W-9s in from the clients, hoping they'd get them in on time, really having to stay on them, stay on them, stay on them in that short period of time, to versus now we have a task for every month to, follow it, go through, see if there's any 1099s that have, that need, any vendors that need a W-9 to receive their 1099. So we get them throughout the year. So actually right now, out of the clients that we have, about half of them are already ready to be filed with no issues.
So, and just to clarify on something that you said, the 1099s, because I don't really even know the process because I'm not really involved in the
Mhm.
1099s. But when they're missing a W-9, they take that task and move it to missing information.
Mhm.
So then they're continuously following up. And then in the communication in the task management system, they put on there that they follow what days they're following up. So then
Yes.
you also know that they're continuously following up. And then if you need to escalate it with the client, it's easy for you to escalate because you can see it. Is that
Yes,
correct?
because yes, I have a dashboard set up in ClickUp to where I can easily see anything that's missing information, and I can scroll through and see what's missing, and I can just click on that task, and it can over in the comments, where it's called the activity on the task. I can literally see because they leave comments of what's missing. Every time they reach out, they leave a comment, so I can easily see. Okay, then if I see they've reached out so many times and the client is still not responding, that's when I know I need to step in. I need to get in touch with the client and find out what's going on, what's happening. And I don't have to involve the team member. They can continue to do their work as is. So there's clear communication without them actually having to stop and communicate with me.
And so then once you reach out to the client, then you also put it on the task
Mhm.
that shows that you've reached out to it. So then the team member also knows that there was
Yes.
another touch point there, that it had been escalated. So how does it make the team members feel knowing that you're available to escalate and they really don't have to push you to escalate? They just know, hey, I see you're stuck. And so I'm going to help push you past being stuck.
It takes the worry of, am I bothering her? You know, do I don't want to, I know she's busy because all team members have this about all owners, you know, I don't want to bother them. I know they're busy, but I know I need this handled. Now it takes all that out. They know that I can easily see where they're at. I can easily see when I need to step in without them having to come to me. It's already handled. They don't have to worry about it.
So we do have two sides of the business. We have the coaching side and we have the accounting tax side. Both sides are living in one system,
Mhm.
plus all the marketing, sales follow up, all the admin, everything lives in one system. So we can also see what our team members that do sales, what they do marketing, we can also see what they're doing. So, for example, today we had the marketing person out, so the other team members were able to actually see her boards, because this is one of the things I see wrong in task management is everything is in like 3 or 4 systems. They're not just in one system, so it's really hard to see capacity. And I know that was one of the things when we switched to ClickUp, was one of the determining factors that I know I wanted, is to be able to see everything together. And we got a ton of pushback from our team on this particular system because they were happy with the other system,
Mhm.
but it wasn't working for either one of us because we had all these tasks living in our head. Can you go through like how we kind of got past that, other than telling them this is what we're going to do? Because that was what the end result was, but we did talk through it.
We do. We everything that we do in our business, we go through the team. We run everything by them because we are a whole unit. It's not us and then them. It's all of us. Yes, we have the final decision, but we their input is very valuable to us. So we listened, we heard, we explained why it was important to us because that's the side they didn't understand. They knew it worked for them. They didn't know our side of the story. So once they heard our side of the story, they're like, oh, it gave them that clarity. It gave them the understanding of why it needed to change and the importance of why it needed to change. If we would have just told them, look, this is how it's going to be, get over it. I mean, there had been so much pushback and negativity surrounding the whole thing that it would have never went as smoothly and easily as it did. They saying that it was just a piece of cake to set it up. It took time, but actually one of our team members actually owned it and said, I'm going to do this. And she loves it. This is her, as she says, jam. This is her love language. This is what she does. She owned it. And there's just literally, we had the buy-in from all of them. When you have the buy-in, everything else falls in line. But it literally, if it is not in ClickUp, it doesn't happen. And everybody understands that and everybody knows that. So our emails can easily connect. We can make a task from our emails into ClickUp so we don't have to worry about it. We can make a task for somebody else from our email so they can handle it. So we're not going back and forth. We can create tasks from, the Listio URL, this the two communication systems we happen to use, and make a task for somebody else. So nothing is missed. That's three systems. They work seamlessly together. So nothing, we don't have to worry about it being missed.
And then we also do accounts payable for clients. And we
Mhm.
used to have they used to have calendars everywhere that was like that Chase is due, Amex is due, all of these different credit cards are due. But the information was siloed. How was that solved with ClickUp?
Well, there's literally a task for that for everybody. Like I said, if it's not in ClickUp, it doesn't happen. Each one of our clients, and I literally had this question asked of me today in one of our coaching sessions, was how do you prevent scope creep? This kind of falls in line with that. Is each one of our clients has a workspace, a folder. Excuse me. We have a client workspace. We have a folder. I want to use the correct terminology here. We have a folder, and under that folder, there's a list that literally we have one for payroll, we have one for accounts payable, uh, month end, so forth, bank feeds, whatever we do for that client, we have a list for it. So their accounts payable, they literally have it scheduled when they are supposed to pay bills for those clients. So they no longer have to worry about the calendar. It's literally living in ClickUp. The task comes up when it's due. They used to have the big desk calendars, and it was just scribbled all over, and they'd have to go into each other's office and see when it was due or something was missing. They don't have to do that anymore. They can just look and ClickUp. But they also go back to the scope creep part of it. If a client calls and asks them to do something, and if they go into ClickUp to look at that task to see how it needs to be done or whatever, to do the task, there's not a list for it. It does not. We do not get paid to do that. So therefore, they can reach out to the client, say, "Hey, look, it's going to be this much because this is not part of your engagement," and we go from there. But it's totally stopped scope creep.
So it matches the engagement letters, which I know many accountants struggle with, is the engagement letters and how to word them and all the stuff that goes into them. But then we take that engagement letter and we make the task from that engagement letter in ClickUp, so there's no question of what is actually included in their engagement. Because I hear a lot of accountants say, "Why do basic bookkeeping?" Well, what does that mean? What is medium level bookkeeping? What does it mean? So, and then on the tax side, we literally have all the tax returns listed with the task, with the process, and on actually how to do it. So, and then there's a checklist. And I know that there is so many people saying, "Well, I can't find good tax people." But I'm telling you, you can do a tax return without the tax knowledge, because it's in a process on how to do it, because every 1120 is almost identical, with the exception of a few nuances from different clients. And then we have those processes changed with those nuances in there. And so I took our most complicated partnership returns and made them into their own processes because they didn't fit with anybody else's. And I had a brand new team member that was able to prepare the work papers, prepare the return, and all I had to do was review it in her very first year. But it was because I had taken the time to document it. And I hear so much feedback of, it takes too much time to build a task management system. It takes too much time to build the processes. But I'm telling you, if you don't start at some point in time, you will never get there, because we did implement ClickUp during first quarter.
Yeah.
Because Megan and I drew it out on a piece of paper and said, "This is what I want it to look like, and give me your feedback." And we literally met with each other once a week, and she would share her progress, because in ClickUp, she had to build ClickUp. She had a task, build ClickUp.
Yeah.
And then I've heard so many clients that say, "I want my team member to grow with me," but there's no growth plan. And so, like, we have all of our team members going through the John Maxwell certification. They literally have a task that tells them to work on this certification and what they need to do. Because what we would tell them before, "We want you to do this certification." Well, they would never work on it because they're sitting there working on client work and they're not thinking about it. But now it's in their face. "Hey, I got to work on that." Plus, we don't have to ask them, "Hey, where are you at with this?" We can go to their task and see where they're at with it. So there's so much more you can do in the system. And like continuing education, I always forget to do my continuing education because mine's on birth date. So mine's due in February. Well, I have a task where I can put my continuing education, my plan in there. So I'm not scurrying at the last minute trying to get it done. And so then that way I can keep up with it in there. And I know we have used it for a lot of team development, individual development, meetings. There's so much that we actually do with it. Marketing, it's been a game changer because we were just like doing marketing just like willy nilly whenever we thought about it. But in ClickUp, it tells us to do it.
Yeah, and we also did it to hire. We used it to literally put in the rest of our team, because we just made a new hire a little over a year ago. So where before we hired our new team member, we had them put on their tasks, move off, because you can put a little tag, right? Now I know it's called different things, labels and stuff in different task management systems, but in ClickUp it's called a tag that you can just made a tag said move off. So then we could literally filter by that tag and see everything that needed to be moved off. And then we knew what type of team member we needed to hire, whether it was admin, whether it was for marketing, whether it was for bookkeeping, or whether it was for coaching. It was easy for us to see what we need to hire for.
And then how much easier?
Go ahead.
How much easier was it whenever we did hire? Because her job was built out on what you need to do every single day.
Yes, it was. So she was not having to, what do I need to do? She wasn't coming to us for things to do. She was actually coming to us saying, I need some help, because she had a full calendar already as a new hire. We just had to kind of balance out the capacity, but that was easy enough to do because we said, okay, we can move some of this off of you, but it gave us a clear picture of everything that was going to end up on her plate. But we were able to go back and say, okay, to the team members that were carrying it before we hired her, go ahead and pull this one back, pull this one back, pull this one back, let her get her feet a little bit more wet, and then we can continue to add to it. So it's really easy to move the parts around, the pieces, without confusion.
And then sometimes we have team members that are like, hey, I need something else to do. So they'll send a message in ClickUp that says, hey, I have some capacity tomorrow if anybody has anything. So it's really easy to move it to them for that day. And then they can move it right back for the next day or whatever, what the task is. So they're able to delegate within each other. Plus we're able to delegate pretty easily too. And so and I hear a lot of tax preparers, I can't keep up with my notices because I'm getting so many tax notices. And I know you've heard the same thing. And I'm like, do you have a task in your task management system? They're like, no. I said, then it doesn't exist.
Yeah. They say no because they're the only ones supposedly, and I put air quotes because there are some that just don't delegate, and there are some that are afraid to delegate or whatever. But they feel they're the only ones that can handle it, so they just keep it in their head, and then they don't worry about putting it into their task management system. But then that actually comes back to bite them because they forget because they don't put so much stuff in their head. Person's mind can only hold so much, or they put it on a piece of paper. Well, during tax time, how much stuff do you have on your desk? Those that still deal with paper. But it's so easily, it's an all or nothing, I guess you could say, including the owner. The owner has to use it just as well, because if one person doesn't use it, it's no good. It's all or nothing. So it could make their life so much easier if they get out of their own space of saying, I'm the only one that knows how to do it, so therefore I don't need to put it in there. Put it in there. Do yourself a favor. Put it in there. That way you don't have to sit there and keep it on worry about keeping it on your mind. It'll pop back up when it needs to pop back up, and then you can worry about what you need to worry about at that point in time. And
I don't know about you, but because we've been on ClickUp for 4 years now, I think so. And when we did the initial brain dump, we found so much money that we were leaving on the table because there was tasks that we were doing that was not even close to the engagement letter at all, because we were thinking our team was going to the engagement letter, but they were focused on keeping the client happy. But when
Mhm.
we did the initial brain dump, we were able to renegotiate engagement letters based on the work that we were doing. And I'm probably going to get you riled up a little bit. It also showed us on some clients, we were way undercharging by the amount of tasks that were going in there. And we've had coaching clients that have also had this realization because they thought, well, I'm only doing a few bank feeds and I'm only doing one bank rec. But then they turned out they have 10 credit cards and they have been doing those 10 credit cards forever and never renegotiated the price.
I think one client that we actually did a conversion to ClickUp for, those words were exact almost to her point. Well, we don't do that much. She didn't have a pricing problem because we were coaching her through that at the time. She didn't have a price problem because I don't do that much. When we did that conversion from another task management system over to ClickUp, she's like, holy crap, I'm way undercharging. Had no idea I did that much stuff for this client because over time it just gets all kind of thrown into one bucket. And like you said, they're just trying to please the client without thinking. The owner knows is pretty much what they do or don't, but the team doesn't, right? If that communication is broken at all, owner's busy. Owner's busy being the owner and doing the things that they should be doing and the stuff they shouldn't be doing. But that's another whole topic. Anyways, going back over here, that if the team doesn't know they're not supposed to be doing it and they have no guidance on that and nothing to really check it against, how are they supposed to know? Their job is to do and keep the client happy. Do what needs to be done to keep the client happy. So,
well, in that same example too, she also, when she was putting the task in, she realized I'm only charging X dollars for that much work. She had no clue because that amount of work was in the engagement letter. She had two sides going on.
yeah.
And we've heard this multiple times. And so she didn't realize how much work it really was to close out that month end or to do that payroll or to do whatever. But then she also realized that she also had a lot of scope creep going on because of the fact that they were doing tasks because there was no real system for them to be in there. And then they also were giving out tax planning as well. We see this a ton of doing client calls and say, hey, how can I reduce my taxes? And the team member said, oh, you can do this, this, and this, and this. That wasn't part of the engagement letter. They were just charging a prep fee.
Yeah.
And so
So
they give it away.
they give it away. Yeah, I'm gonna hit on pricing just a little bit. I promise I won't stay
I
on
knew
long.
I'd get you riled up.
No, you ain't gonna get me. I'm containing myself, controlling myself. The one thing, and she realized this. Yes, she knew that they did payroll, but she did not know the complexity that sometimes the payroll had gotten to from the time that the engagement was actually brought on to what it was. So when you lose focus of that, your pricing no longer matches because you're no longer charging on your value because you don't include the one thing most people forget to include is the intellectual value that they hold, their intellectual property, what's up here, the knowledge it's taken to do that more complex payroll versus the payroll they actually priced them for. So if that's not something that's kept up with, you're getting screwed. I'm sorry, it's just that's the bottom line. You're getting screwed. It is the same as you don't buy if somebody offered you a Mercedes at a fiat price, something's wrong with that picture. But if you buy a fiat and you can end up getting that Mercedes just because you just kept going back, going back, and going back, and then they finally just gave you the Mercedes to keep you happy, who wouldn't want to accept that, right? So I know that's kind of off course of what we're talking about, and I'm going to shut up now. But just food for thought. If you don't know what you're doing for the client, you're not only losing, I hate to even say it, the amount of time that's being worked on it, but you're losing all the intellectual value too.
Well, and not to mention, you're also losing, and not to focus on time, but it's taking you away from other things. So
Yeah.
I know when we've gone through this route, which we have a couple times, we were also losing out on our life
Oh
because we
God,
were
yes.
working a tremendous amount of hours but we couldn't see it. And we were constantly, well, we'll just work out of this problem. But we had to step back and figure out what the freaking problem was instead of just
Yeah.
continually staying in the hamster wheel or just keep going and going and going. We literally had to stop the brakes and take a step back and really look at what was going on. And I remember the first time the entire team actually did where they actually listed out everything they freaking do for every client. We were shocked.
Yeah. We were shocked when we listed out what we did for every client. And we realized why we were so damn tired all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something that everybody needs to do. Everybody needs to have a task management system, regardless of which one it is. They need to have this in order. They all want to streamline their process. I mean, their business, their processes, whatever. The key to doing that is having the task management system.
And one last thing before we kind of close up, you used to, well, you still do track the hours versus what we kind of quote them at, and that's just an internal benchmark. But you used to tell the girls, I need y'all to do this faster. And I hear this a lot in the industry, but it was because we were pricing wrong.
Yes, and what happens when you tell somebody they need to do something faster? They make more mistakes because they're trying to rush through their work, and irreversibly, it actually takes more time because then they're having to go back and it's going to just doing the little ping pong of going back and forth from the preparer to the reviewer back and forth because they rush through the work. So it's counterproductive. If you price right, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And I also hear back to, I wanted to touch on pricing a little bit, is because there's all kinds of things I'm seeing on Facebook right now about which tax program to use, which kind of tech to use. And it's because their margins are so small, they keep having to change to get the best pricing, but then they're actually spending more because of the implementation of it, where if you're pricing the way you need to be pricing to be profitable, to work with the number of clients you want, and not every client is a fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Sometimes
somebody out
no
there
is a
for
blessing.
everyone.
Sometimes
Yes.
no is a blessing.
So, but doing this exercise with ClickUp, where we put in all the tasks and we actually literally had a oh crap moment of this is why we're working all the time, and we've had several clients that we have built ClickUp for, and they're like, I don't like it because it's yelling at me. It's yelling at you because you're over capacity. And Lynn and I both went through that. We were like, there's no way I can do 100 tasks, even if they only take 5 minutes.
I freak out if I have over 15 on my board a day. So yeah, going from that to this, yeah, it's life changing, but it can be done. That's the whole point. Yes, it's yelling at you because it's telling you clearly you're doing more than what you should be doing. It tells you if you need to hire, because if your whole team is like that, if you're over capacity and your team's over, it tells you need to hire. If you're over capacity and your team's not, you need to delegate. Right? Or if none of your team is ever at capacity and you're not at capacity, you might have too many people. It tells you stories that you don't want to know, stories that you do want to know. You just got to face the truth. But I promise it'll make the life a whole lot better. There is a learning curve with it. Just any task management, you're going to have a learning curve. Back to the tax software. Yeah, you have the implementation, but you also have a learning curve, not only for the self, but for the team. If you have a team or not, you still got to learn it. So yes, as with any kind of software, it can be overwhelming to start. But as you said at some point in here, if you don't start, you'll never complete it. Right? You'll stay right where you're at. You'll never get to the finish line if you don't start walking or running, jogging, something. So
Right. And so like I had said earlier, that we did implement ClickUp in first quarter, which was right through tax season. And that is when we had quite a few tax clients, but it also showed us the holes, and it showed us where the problems were, but it helped where I could take a little piece and build out over time. And so that would be what I would focus on during the summer. And also it helped me move the part of the tax returns that I didn't need to do, Where before I felt like I needed to do it all because I had to have control of it because I want to make sure it was e-filed. I want to make sure it was processed right and all of this. And as we've been coaching accountants for like 5 years, we've noticed this is a common thing where they're basically hoarding the whole thing, and you shouldn't be hoarding the whole thing, but it's because you don't have a clear system that says how to keep up with it. And so, whether you use TaxDome or any of those, I've seen that there's such a break in the system that people aren't able to follow through with it. So then they take the work back.
Yeah. Yeah. So just for clarity purposes, because we get this a lot, does it work for taxes?
Yes, it does work for taxes. I saw how you flipped that script. Yes, it does work for taxes, but it is not a portal for clients to send information in. So there are ones that are portals for the client as well. We choose to use Liscio for that plus ClickUp, but it was because I wanted everything in one spot. We do see TaxDome and ClickUp that need to work side by side together, because TaxDome is meant for a client portal and a pipeline for tax or bookkeeping. But as far as off task, that it works well with ClickUp. And I just choose because I wanted one. That was my goal. So I've seen it work both ways. But either way, I don't care what people use. Lynn doesn't care what people use. As long as you're using something, it can be life-changing. So and we have gone through with clients and potential clients, and we've actually looked at their task management system to see why it is not working, no matter what system it is, because we've actually said, we've done some with Financial Sense. We've done some with TaxDome. I think Asana. We've done one with Monday, Asana, Carbon, and we've been able to identify why it's not working. So reach out if you want us to look at that, or if you want to see how you can start streamlining your business. Book a call. I promise we're not scary people. Well, minus Lynn, she might be a little scary sometimes.
Hey.
But book a call with us so we can actually see how you can help. And don't wait till after tax season. That is probably about the worst time you can start, because as you go through tax season, we identify opportunities. We give you tips on how to streamline your tax process as you go, instead of after it's done, because then it's all forgotten. In May, it's like we all go brain dead, and then we forgot everything that happened during tax season. So that's why this is the most ideal time to start. So I'm going to drop the link in the comments below. So if you want to book a call, and we can look at your task management system and just have a conversation around what is going on in your firm, what your goals are, where you want to go with it, and see if we can help you going forward. So I hope to see you soon. And I hope this training was helpful on delegation and task management, and we will be seeing you soon.